The Lord of the Rings franchise is dear to many people's hearts. I was personally one of those kids who read the books before seeing the movies, so it is fair to say I have great respect for Tolkien's work, and I am thrilled every time a project around the Lord of the Rings is announced. However, in the past few years, despite the many attempts to make new things regarding this franchise, nothing has really convinced people. The Rings of Power TV show has received very mixed reviews, and the Gollum game is a total disaster.
Please kill me.
Nowadays, people are really skeptical regarding anything new about the Lord of the Rings franchise. That being said, I was quite excited when they announced Return to Moria. Main reason being that I love underground settings, and the mines of Moria always fascinated me, despite the fact that I rarely play dwarves in video games. So I made a few videos covering some of the information we had about the game, and was even part of a closed beta. The game was just recently released on the 24th of October 2023, and I got my hands on it for free as part of a Rainmaker content creator campaign. I was planning on buying the game anyway, but it is always nice. I want to take the time to give my first impressions about the game now that it has come out. Keep in mind that I have not finished the game yet, and that a full-fledged review will come out later once I feel like I have enough playtime. If you want to have a quick review to know if you want to buy the game or not, then welcome to this video. Else you can wait for the full review that should come out in less than a week, I hope. As I have played the beta and I'm pretty far in the game, I will make it as spoiler free as possible and give you my thoughts as a beta tester and a current player. Let's start by quickly explaining what this game is, because it might not be as easy as it seems. The game looks a lot like a classic survival game. You need to eat, sleep, craft and build, but I find it hard to qualify it as a real sandbox game. Though there is some use of procedural generation, it is not as drastic as in games like Minecraft or Valheim. You of course need to collect resources and do a bunch of stuff, but the game seems to be quite story driven. It has quest markers, voice dialogues, NPCs and clear objectives. In the end, it looks a lot like an RPG with a heavy survival game inspiration. So it is definitely a game you can enjoy for both aspects, but it is not the most perfect in any of those domains, as it tries to do both at the same time. While there is a lot of things to craft, it is not that much when you look at other survival games, and while the story is interesting and fits well into the setting, it is not the most complete storytelling either. However, the mix of both is quite interesting and makes an overall enjoyable experience. I want to talk first about what the game does well, and then we will go over some things I am not really convinced about and some issues I see. The ambience of Moria feels pretty good. The environments are definitely what I would expect from a Moria game. Verticality is explored pretty well, but not to the point of being frustrating. The environments are dark and dangerous to explore, but the difficulty is never insanely high either. The character creation is very convincing, and though the game definitely does not have the best graphics, it looks pretty good and the art style fits very well. Voice acting is good and diverse, and some game mechanics make good use of it. I think the game overall recreates very well what the feeling of exploring a long abandoned dwarven ruin feels like. Sadly though, I think there is a lot to say about the game on some negative aspects. I personally think it should have been delayed more. I know some people do not like delays, but I would rather wait than have a game that does not do as well as it should have, because they did not take or were not given enough time to fix things up. Some problems that existed in the closed beta are still there, and when I played the beta I was already convinced that they would never have enough time to fix everything before the full release. I will not talk into too much details about this here, as I keep this for a full review or a separate video. As such, I will keep this short. The performance is not always great, with some FPS drops, but so far I've never had a crash. There are still a few problems with the UI, where sometimes click will stop working, and it seems that the AI of enemies is quite stupid. There are still some bugs regarding sounds, where some play where they should not. I want to conclude this part with the elephant in the room. Building was awful in the beta and still is. The snapping is very janky, sometimes buildings break on their own when you try building something else close to them. Fortunately, complex building is far from mandatory if you just want to finish the game, but I still think a lot of people expected to truly restore the mines of Moria to their former glory in the game, and they might get disappointed. Same for those who expected a lot of digging, as this is a dwarf game. Digging is restricted to some specific areas and is mainly used to tunnel through rubbles to access another room and get resources. Let me wrap this up before I end this video and give my general first impressions and beta player thoughts. Lord of the Rings Return to Moria is an enjoyable experience and constitutes a very solid basis for an amazing game in the long run. Exploring is fun, there is quite a lot to do. The stories are interesting and most of the time the game is pretty good fun. However, it sometimes feels like it was not ready to release. It clearly takes a lot of inspiration from Valheim, but the mechanics are rarely as polished and filled with content as Valheim, which is still an early access game. Only time will tell if the game becomes as great as it can be, because there is definitely a lot of potential. I think it needs a few patches, bringing more content in some areas and quite a lot of fixing. I wish the best of luck to the devs, and I'm proud to say that this is not another Golem. While not mind-blowingly good, Return to Moria is a pretty decent game in the making and might break the curse on Lord of the Rings content if given proper care and time. I would recommend the game, especially if you enjoy exploration, love the Lord of the Rings franchise and want to have some fun with friends, as the game has some co-op features I have not been able to test since the beta. I hope you stay tuned for a full review if you still feel like you need more information before buying the game. Do not hesitate to subscribe if you want more content. I'll see you again. Bye.
There's a tavern in the deep, they say, hum-da-dee-o-day-o, where the barkeep croons to the tune they play, hum-da-dee-o-day-o, hum-da-dee-o-do. And once you know how the ditty goes, hum-diddy-o-do, means at the oaken door with the raven crest, you can sing for your supper and a good night's rest. Hum-diddy-o-day-o, hum-diddy-o-do.